We are back with the Motherhood Channel with me, Quinn Brown Huffman, and Tanya Meeks, channeling everything that motherhood stands for and brings forward for us as artists and creatrixes.
Yeah.
And today we are both feeling, what are we feeling? We're feeling a little under. And yet that's where the juice sometimes really becomes very real and nourishing. And so we went to our decks, and Tanya pulled from, what deck did you pull, Tanya?
It's called the Rebecca Campbell Work with Your Light. She wrote this book called The Light is the New Black. I don't know if you guys can see the
Oh, there
cover,
you
but
go.
and the card was like leap and the net will appear. Kind of like what
Mm.
do you want to leap towards? What are you afraid to take the leap into? And I was commenting that I feel like motherhood is a leap of faith in all of its idiosyncrasies and changes. And
It
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Motherhood is a complete leap into the unknown, even
Hmm.
though it's it's one of the most known and labeled roles in the world, and there's so many
Hmm.
molds that we get to fit into. These days, motherhood is a great unknown because we are constantly expanding and wanting to rewrite the script of it because we cannot. I mean, I'm really feeling that the majority of kids do not want to fit into the mold that the world has created.
Hmm.
And so we are seeing a lot of chaos and a breakdown. And so I pulled the card kindness, and it feels like the two goes hand in hand in a way.
Hmm.
Um, being, taking this leap into motherhood thoughtfully and lovingly for all. Laura actually said this beautiful thing, and I said I'd quote her. We were talking about fairness because a lot of kids are, that's not fair, and I'm like, what's fair? What does that even mean, really? And she's like,
Yeah, where
well,
does that even?
fairness means that you get what you want for you and your body, but so does everyone else also get taken care of. So everybody
Hmm.
is getting what they need. And I loved her wisdom at 9 to say, that there's something for everybody, but it's not about the same. It's not about looking for the same thing for everyone, but making
Hmm.
sure everyone has what they need. I love that. But yeah, the leap that we all have to take.
Yeah, and thinking of the leap that each of our kiddos take in navigating the world and all of the changes in the world, right? It feels like, yeah, we met with his homeschool charter person yesterday, and it was rough. It was rough. It was a rough rodeo. And I was like, wow, even the simple thing that I've encountered to go down that road is complicated, right? Because
Mm.
yeah, it just was an interesting. She was trying to, I was like, oh, give us your suggestion of what you would make the day look like. And she was giving us a schedule and a suggestion. I just was trying to like be open to feedback because she was basically saying, maybe your style this year didn't really serve. And I was just saying, yeah, there's some deficits. Maybe my style didn't really serve the situation necessarily. So I'm open to feedback. Like I was trying to be cool the whole thing. So I was like writing it down and then Sparrow was like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to, which is fine. We may not, but I was just trying to like let the feedback land. And there's this place where, um, for him, everything was private. So he didn't want to share with her anything we had done, but she's kind of like the monitor, like the gatekeeper. So she needed him to share and he doesn't feel comfortable with her. So that he wouldn't share. And so it was this really like, rough rodeo and then she said something like, well, you're the student, but he doesn't really see it that way because he's not in a traditional classroom, so he didn't really even get, I don't know, just rough. It was like a rough communication. I was like, what do we
Oof.
do? How do we abort mission? And then it makes me think, is that what is the right system? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you go from
Exactly. Yeah.
homeschooling to the wild and free, if you go to a traditional school to like a wild and free. Have you read that book, Wild and Free by
I have not. Who wrote
it's an
that?
amazing book. And she's homeschooling and she has like um conferences now and books, and she has a beautiful podcast, and she's just a mom that honored her kids and did more of an unschooling approach. But it's called Wild and Free. And it's really beautiful. Her strategy and her it's very gentle but very creative and like honor. Anyway, it's really beautiful. So I feel like there's this paradigm of how do you honor your style, your kid's style, and then what system is best? Like, does that make sense? Hold
It
on,
does.
Bubba.
And I mean, it's a real challenge to figure out what your leap is through all of that, because the systems and work for us, and it's a challenge because we're still navigating our way. I feel like we're walking across the bridge. And there's
Mm-hmm.
this old way of doing things. There's this new generation that's come in. And then there's this already some design of a new way, or kind of like you said, it's an unschooling. It's really acknowledging what the possibility of this world and what these kids have, what they're able to create.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we set the stage for them? And it's so unknown and it's terrifying at times, because I was saying, I sit with friends that have really hard relationships with their mothers. In many cases, they have to detach completely
Mm-hmm.
and kind of say, that is now, thank you for giving life to me. And now I have shed the burden of you as a mother. And so you sit with that. And I'm like, the responsibility as a mother to
Mm-hmm.
hold the truth of the reality I see them creating and keeping them safe and healthy in order to just live their truth becomes daunting, because I so desperately want to do right by them also. So you kind of get
Mm-hmm.
stuck in those two spaces of wanting to do right by them, uh, and not knowing what to do at all. And so then what do? You just leap. You leap and you
Mm-hmm.
trust the net will be there, because you're following that inner guidance that it lives in them. And I think that's the work we
Mm-hmm.
both do as artists also, is constantly leaning back into trusting that guidance that is not written down, it's not predetermined. So it's daunting. It definitely makes you think. Wild and Free, I watched the movie Captain Fantastic. Did you watch that?
Mm-mm, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh my gosh, you have
Okay.
to. Matthew McConaughey is, no, not Matthew. I'm so confused. Sorry, but Captain Fantastic. It's about this family who of six that lives
Okay.
in the woods. At the end of the movie,
I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna pause for a second, but I'm listening. Just
okay,
giving you feedback.
okay, I after we watched the movie, we're in the movie theater. It was a day show. Ryan and I sneaked away to the movies on a date. This is years ago now, it feels like, because we were still in South Africa. And the credits are running at the end of the movie, and I sobbed. And I sobbed and I sobbed and I sobbed. And the tears just wouldn't stop flowing. And I was so triggered and so inspired.
Hmm.
And I think back at that moment where what the movie was speaking into was all of this, like the in between worlds, and
Mm.
trying to figure out what works, because there's all these belief systems also. So it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
true leap of faith to figure out, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you feel is your greatest leap that you've had to do in this space?
Hmm. That's a good question. Yeah, it's honoring my truth. I think I used to check in with everybody, ran a lot by whoever, strangers, close friends. Like I just ran things by a mass committee, close to
Mm.
random people, anybody. I just was very open about running everything by people. And that's kind of how I processed and figured things out. And now I think because maybe there's been more judgment about the path, the way I've chosen to parent, the choices I've made, the style, all of it, that I feel like the leap has been just, yeah, not worrying about, not that I felt like I worried before what people thought, but I think I did more than I realized. And now really holding space and not getting as impacted by others' more judgments. I feel like there's been a lot of judgments in my parenting style and
Mm. Mm.
with people that were super close, so
Yeah.
of not letting that impact how I do it. If I truly intuitively believe this is whatever X is the right path. Does that make sense? So there's been a lot
Yeah,
in taking
exactly.
that journey. I think a lot of people, because like I said last week, I was so work obsessed that when that shifted, people were like, well, what, like really ruffled. Their feathers were really ruffled that I wasn't going to continue that same trajectory and judging that, why would I not do that? And there was just a lot of pushback. Does that make sense? So I feel like there's been this place of, um, yeah, not letting people's judgment run or change my path of how I'm parenting.
Mm. Because you're so open to the feedback, and to suggestions and to figuring out this way. And in that same breath, it's so important to just see it as that. Find the
Yeah.
suggestions, and that I was actually working with the girls this past week about finding the yes in your body and
Mm.
really not negotiating that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that is your truest path. So if it's
Hmm.
not an out loud, very clear, undoubted, unnegotiable yes, then
Then it's
really
not a
give it
yes.
some
Yeah.
time. Leave
Yeah.
it. Don't buy it. Don't engage with it until you feel that
For
wonderful,
sure.
undoubted sense of a yes.
Kind of like the
Because,
human design, when you feel it. Yeah.
oh, yeah, I don't know much about that, but yes,
Okay.
I just, I think that's been my guidance, has been so clear through my body that that's what I've got to share with them. When it
Hmm.
comes to negotiating friendships now, clicking with people and making sure that you're following what feels
Your
good to you
truth.
in
Hmm.
friendships and in, projects or food, I mean,
Yeah.
direction, anything really, because there is this wonderful sense of a force that moves through all of us. And so it's interesting sharing it with them now as they grow and get older, and
Hmm.
we can start having these interesting conversations. And I was doing it in front of my mother-in-law, and I I kind of had a bit of an outer body experience talking about the judgment when we really start following what our truth is
Hmm.
and speaking the language that resonates with that truth, and then watching people watch us do that can
Yes.
feel, because maybe that we didn't do it as out loud before. Well, I speak for myself,
No, I
and
get that. Hmm.
suddenly feeling their eyes on me doing something that's really authentic and real for me. Yeah, it's an interesting experience. It is. And staying
Yeah, I
true to
think before,
ourselves
yeah, I think that
regardless.
yeah, yeah, there's a place where you still feel it, even if you're holding true to your truth. Does that make sense? So Yeah,
Yeah.
I get
Well,
that.
especially when you're
That's
sensitive to other people's thoughts and feelings
energy. Yeah.
and you're
Yeah, I can
navigating
read
their energy.
everybody. I guess that's the thing. It's not like I'm avant-garde and like not taking in how other people are reading the situation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like
Yep.
yesterday, she's like, "Is this a normal interaction?" I was just like, I was like, "No." And he's like, "I don't like you." And I was like, "Great. That's great." I was
He's
like,
so
"Dude, she's the
honest.
gatekeeper. She's the gatekeeper. She's the gatekeeper. We don't have to like her. We still are trying." But
Oh
I was
my
just, and
gosh.
I was like, no, I was like, he either clicks with people or doesn't click with people. And if he doesn't, then everything is private and he doesn't want to share anything. Otherwise, he's kind of really open or he's really closed. It's either on or off. And
There's no in
this,
between, right?
there's
Yeah.
no, I was like, and if you keep poking to get information, like that's just, he's closing up more. Like we can try. Yeah. So I was like, why don't we try another day? Try another day and see
Yeah.
how it feels. But it was interesting because I could feel the place where she was like assessing and saying, "Oh, this is just regular scheduled. This is the regular behavior."
Mm,
It was kind of fascinating,
mm,
kind of. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, I see. And it's not very fun being witnessed like that and then it being noted down as as something people are just constantly trying to label
Well, I
and
think,
things in
mhm,
spaces so they can make sense of it when they don't have the bigger picture. It's like, can we all take a step back and be more this is a theme that came up for me this week talking about all of that is we're so fast to be suspicious. Like people walk around filled with suspicion, constant
mhm,
suspicion of the world and each other and I'm like, when why? Why
mhm,
did we change curiosity into suspicion? Like
mhm,
I want to just encourage people to choose curiosity over suspicion.
mhm,
So instead of being immediately on defense, like if someone's different than you or, have a different tone of voice or a different modus operandi in the world, instead of going, they're after me or it's going to destroy my world because they're so different, just go, I wonder why. I wonder what's the story behind that. I wonder how this works for them. So, and there's our sparrow. Hello, love.
okay.
Oh, I can't hear you. Where'd you go? I can't hear you.
Okay, he's
Did you
whispering.
mute?
He's
Oh,
trying to
there we go.
whisper. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, no. I just suddenly thought your sound went away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of something that was on my mind a lot this past week is to reignite our children and everybody's sense of curiosity. But there's so much fear being promoted that suspicion is our go-to.
Or how people learn or their personality styles or all of that is kind of fascinating,
Yeah,
right? You know.
exactly.
Mhm.
Mm.
But the
So
woman,
leaping
her
into the
website,
unknown as a mother.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I was going to give her book is her website's bewildandfree.org, but it's, now I lost her name again, Ansley Armet. But there's a book and she has like a website and conferences and events and, it's a pretty
That's
cool
wonderful
resource.
resource.
And her book on
Yeah, so
Audible
we'll
is
put
really
that
lovely
in
because
a
it's like
link.
her reading it or telling the story. It's
Mm,
nice.
I
I like
love
her
it.
style.
So we'll put that in a link below for
Yes.
everybody on the YouTube channel. Um, so if you subscribe and remember to click on the bell so that you know when the new episode comes out,
Yeah.
and then we'll put these resources in the link in a link below so you can dive into that. I think there's so many possibilities for us as mothers now and it's both daunting and exciting, so really
Yeah, I
not
think
being
there.
afraid to
Mhm.
explore, be curious and explore and don't be too afraid because like she said in the card, if you leap, you will be caught in a beautiful, safe net.
Yeah, because I do think there's an interesting piece of like now there's so many possibilities and roles. Like kids have all these roles. Us as moms get to be hands-on mom. There is this thing where we're supposed to kind of do everything now, right? Like there's a desire to work, there's a desire to be these like mystical, magical, ever-encompassing mamas, where there's, I think, a lot of um unraveling all those roles, right? I don't know.
I think
And what's
so.
true, because there's still a lot of expectations instead of just of all these extreme roles, right?
Yeah. I'm just going to say one more thing. It takes a village. It just does. It takes a
Yeah.
village to be a mother. None of us are supposed to do it alone.
Yeah, that's a good.
We cannot be everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, imagine that net being the village is there. When you step into your greatest truth, your village that will see you for who you are and can hold you there and support you will show up. So maybe
Yeah.
that's the leap
Yeah.
that just came through.
And no,
That was a
no
channel I
matter
just
how
got
much you
first.
change, there still will be people that fit in whatever paradigm you're in.
They are there.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Yay.
Mm. I love it. We love all of you. And this was our sweet, short, and
Sure.
divinely channeled
Yeah.
conversation today in the vulnerable space of this new moon week. May you all
Hmm.
have just love surround you and keep you safe.
Big love, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Mm.